Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel Books Natasa, and today we're gonna be doing my September wrap up. September I read 16 books and 6 manga, and I think I am quite pleased with myself, even though this is quite an average number for me and quite a few of them were novellas. But I am happy to report that I have mostly completed my September TBR. I've read most of the books that I want to read, except for a few ones that I just wasn't in the mood for. So maybe next month, maybe later in the year, who knows when I will be in the mood for them. But yeah, the first book that I read in the month of September was Trick or Truth by Kristen Granata, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was a single parent forced proximity age gap romance, and I think it's a short book, and I really did enjoy it because we have this girl Elena, who is a divorced woman living alone, and it's Halloween. She loves Halloween. She puts up a ball of candy outside, but then this little girl comes and steals it, and Elena follows her to this house that is actually her neighbor's house, but then the neighbor is a total asshole with her. So they start doing this sort of trick or treat war between them until this guy's daughter, his name is Grant, and his daughter, I think, is 12, 13, almost a teenager. She wants a tutor and she becomes close with Elena, and so they decide to call a truce. But as they begin to spend more time together, they start to develop feelings with each other, and I just love that. We also, my only complaint for this book that it was that we didn't really have any spicy scenes or anything. It was quite mellowed down, if that makes sense. But still, I really did enjoy it, and I highly recommend you guys read it, especially around this time of year, which is Halloween approaching soon. So I think this is a cute, fun read. We have one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and that is Things We Left Behind, which is book number 3 in the Nakaman series by Lucy Score. This is the final book in the series, and it follows Lucian and Sloan, and many of us who have been reading the series have been waiting for this book to arrive, and I have to say it did not disappoint me. I ended up giving it 4 or 5 stars, and at the end of this book review I'm gonna give you my ranking of the couples, so keep an eye out. But yeah, so this book was enemies to lovers, forced proximity, and childhood friends at the beginning, and then turn enemies, something like that. Romance, so we see Lucian and Sloan, they used to be really close with each other because Lucian had a really difficult time at home, and and Sloan was his only refuge. And then something happened, I can say, but Sloan sort of betrayed his trust in his mind. So they start doing, and she feels like she didn't. So there's this back and forth between them, but later something happens, and yeah. So present day now, Sloan feels like her clock is ticking to start a family, so she starts dating a lot, and Lucian becomes super jealous of that fact, but he doesn't want to admit it, and they start having sex with it, and sooner rather than later, it's everything between them, but they don't want to really admit it. So the most of this book is friends with enemies with benefits, if that makes sense. But yeah, there is also the suspense going around that with Anthony and Hugo and everything, and waiting to see how everything wraps up in the series. And yeah, I really did enjoy this book. I really did enjoy the ending, which we got to see a few years later how everyone was doing and everything. And yeah, so for my ranking of this series, first we have my favorites, which is Lina and Nas from Things We Have from a Light. Then we have Lucian and Sloan from Things We Left Behind. And last we have Nox and Naomi from Things We Never Got Over. So yeah, this is definitely a favorite series of mine. I had so much fun reading it and being in this world, and it was just such a fun time for me. And I loved watching all of our couples at the end being happy, including Jeremiah and the other guy who is friends with Naomi, Steph. And I really did enjoy it, and basically everyone was happy at the end, and it was the best. I'm really hoping for like a novella to come out with them a few years after, like 5 years or 7, so we can see them have families and everything. I think that is gonna be a super fun read. So yeah. Next we have Here With Me, which is book number 1 in the Sugar and Creek series by Brooke Montgomery, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This book had been everywhere on the internet just before it's released, and I was really excited to read it, because it is a forbidden age-gap small town romance, and I'm so here for it. Those are some of my favorite tropes out there. So in this book we have Fisher and Noah, which they are the cutest. So Fisher is this older guy that moved to this small town to be, I think, around his son, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read these books, but yeah. So he goes out to the bar one night and meets the most incredible, most beautiful woman he's ever seen, and he really likes him as well, and that girl is Noah. So they hit it off and they spend the night together, and they really want to do it again. But then the next morning, Fisher goes to work, and guess what? It's Noah's runs, basically her family's runs, but she mostly runs it, so she is his boss, which I love a good female empowerment scene and everything. But yeah, Noah doesn't take it very well because she thinks he is kind of stalking her, if that makes sense, but that quickly goes out the window. But they still have their attraction and everything because they really want to be together. Fisher is actively pursuing her, but Noah actually used to date his son, so as soon as she tells him that, they decide to take a step back, just because Fisher is here to repair his relationship with his son. She doesn't want to jeopardize that, so there is this wanting between them and angst and everything, but quickly they give into their feelings and everything, and it's so fiery, and I am so here for it. I loved it so much. This book was so much fun, and I didn't really think I was gonna ship them immediately, because as soon as we open the book, there is immediately the spicy scene and the one night stand between them, and it's happening in present time. It's not like most books where we go back after 100 pages and read the scene, but here we start with it, and Brooke Montgomery did a fantastic job in gripping me emotionally and everything, and loving these characters and shipping them immediately, and I just can't wait for the next book in this series. Next we have a book that became my favorite of the year, and I added it to my all-time favorite books of all time, and that is Hawk by Jessie Hall. And I have read this one 2 to 3 times already this month. As soon as I finished it, I really wanted to reread it because I'm in love with Hawk. He's the sweetest, most caring, most wonderful character ever. He deserves the world, and I am just so sad that he suffered so much, and he's just a sweetheart, and he deserves only happiness. So basically, starting this book, we have Nicole, otherwise known as Nick or Cole, as Hawk calls her. But yeah, she is living with her boyfriend in this house. But one day she goes home and finds Hawk is her new roommate, and they don't meet in the best circumstances. But they sort of start not liking each other, hating each other. But then something happens, and they start to become really close friends, and then that quickly turns, and because Hawk and Cole really have this deep emotional understanding. Something is drawing them together. And just FYI, there is cheating in this book, but the boyfriend is the worst, and he is actually mentally and verbally abusing Cole for the longest time, as we begin to find out more about the relationship and how different her relationship is with Hawk and everything. And yeah, there is also this underlying sort of mystery going on, and how we really want to know why Hawk is such a tortured soul and everything, which we get to see. And he's super scared the entire time, that why he's acting so rough with Cole, because he doesn't believe that she will accept him and will believe him, because nobody ever did, because they never gave him a chance and everything. But yeah, this book was so emotional for me. I absolutely loved Hawk and Cole's romance, and and just by talking about this book makes me want to read it. So I have read most of Jessica's books except for Kid and her newest one. But the new one I don't think I'm gonna read, because I'm not really feeling sports romance anymore in my life. So I'm not sure why, but I think I'm burned out in that section of reading. But I really want to read Kid, but I'm really hesitant because there is a lot of drug use and drug addiction over there, and I haven't read many books with that subject, and I'm not sure how I will feel. Next, another favorite book of the year, and that is Gothic Kana by Ryu Nook, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This has been on my TBR ever since I loved reading the Darkverse series, and so I really want to read Gothicana and then Arcana, like I said. So Gothicana is a dark academia, gothic, age gap teacher-student romance, which I usually am not a fan of student-teacher romances, but this one was perfection. So we have our girl Corvina, and she's 21, and then we have Val that is actually a master student himself, and he's 27. So there is a huge age gap, but there is an age gap. So we have this mystery and suicides that happen in this castle, and Corvina is sort of drawn to them because she starts hearing voices, but she's also really drawn to Vad. Because he feels like they are soulmates. If that makes sense, they are they are drawn to each other so bad. At first, we see Vad completely resist Corvina because he doesn't have the time for a relationship or anything, because he's here for a purpose. We don't know what it is in the beginning, but yeah, quickly he gives in because of the allure that is Corvina, because of a prophecy that was told to him when he was young, that he needs to find the girl with purple eyes, and as soon as he did, his life would change forever and everything. So that was really cool, and I love the mental illness aspect of this book, and I love of how the ending was kind of left open for Corvina and everything. But I really did love the ending for her and Vad. They are amazing together. I love them so much. They are perfection, and I have read this book like so many times already, and I can't wait for Arcana. We have Light It Up, which is book number 1, The Price to Wed by Katie Perez, which I gave 4 stars. This is an act that was sent to me by the author some time ago, but I didn't have the time to read it, so I read it this month. And basically it is a stalker romance, but we have 2 types of stalkers, if that makes sense. The first one is the bad kind that uses her and basically tries to kill this girl. And then she flees and tries because it saved her life, and that is when she goes to an old house owned by her grandfather, and that is where she sort of goes into this organization that her grandparent owned and everything. And then because they want to protect her because she's a legacy, if that makes sense. But then she becomes really close with this enforcer that from this organization. So yeah, and we see them sort of try to handle the stalker and everything. Just FYI, this book ends in a huge cliffhanger, and I'm dying for the next book. Just because I'm a super curious person and I really want to know what's happening, but I think it's gonna be a lot of trigger warning in the next book. I think it's gonna be torture, capture, and everything. I'm trying not to spoil it, but I guess I kinda did. I'm sorry, but yeah, I really did enjoy it. Next, I have been wanting to read a werewolf romance for the longest time, and I've read Never He's Made, which is book number 1 in the Clone Fang series by Sarah Space, which I gave 3 stars. So first we have this story starting with Gemma confronting Riker for his intentions, but he says that he would never mate with her, and basically decides, and basically she leaves. She doesn't have many choices. Either she goes into the woods and dies, or goes to vampire territory and gets her blood sucked out. But that's what she decides to do, and then a vampire saves her and claims her as his own, and then basically they're best friends. But he actually has feelings for her. So then we see a year later, Rika finds her and tries to reclaim her. That is the only thing that I hated for this book, and I mean, I really didn't want a romance between Riker and Gemma. I wanted a romance with a vampire, just because Riker is the worst. I mean, he comes back a year after and expects to find this perfect little wolf that begged him to not leave her, and basically begged him and be happy that he actually paid attention to her, which I absolutely hated. He's actually super forceful and everything. He's like, let's go, you're mine, you never should have left and everything, and turns everything around on her like it's her fault, which I absolutely hated. And he becomes like super territorial and immediately in fights with a vampire, which was her friend and everything, and basically just keeps forcing and forcing and forcing his way into her heart and everything. And I just really didn't like that, and I just felt like Gemma should have told him to go screw himself and just be happy her own. And I get it, a werewolf needs his mate and everything and all, but I think I don't like any of it, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna continue the series, if it's gonna continue this way. So yeah. Next we have a new favorite series of mine, and that is Nero, book number 1 from the Alliance by S.J. Tilly, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I have already reread so many times. So, starting this book, we meet Peyton, who is sitting in her living room alone watching a movie. Then there is this flash of lighting, and she looks at the window, and who's there? A man, a gorgeous man wearing a suit, and she's like super shocked to see him there, and and basically he starts slowly walking towards her and sits down and watches the movie with her, and she's like, what the hell is happening and everything. So after a while, she's really attracted to him basically, and then he leaves, but he's obsessed with her, and but he tries to keep his distance because he's a really public face of the mafia, and basically anyone that he cares about is at risk of getting killed. So but yeah, but then we see Peyton sort of inviting him in, and then we see the most amazing spicy scene. But we also see that Peyton is really troubled and has nightmares and everything because something really bad happened to her in her childhood and everything. But of course, our madman, completely walking red flag Nero, that takes care of that for her, and I love that. And Nero and Peyton are perfection for one another. Both are obsessed with one another, and I was so in for that. With a favorite series, and that is King, book number 2 in the Alliance by S.J. Tilly, which I gave 3.75 out of 5 stars. This is my least favorite book in the series, just because I don't really like how forceful King is sometimes. So yeah, starting we have Savannah on her third day with a guy named Leland. They go to this house to meet, I think, his sister or something, I don't know. So they go to this house, and then there is King in there, and his wife is also there. So turns out Leland is a cheating scumbag, and but Savannah has no idea. So basically, she's humiliated and then leaves and goes home. But she realizes that she left her keys in Leland's place, so she goes back for them, and that's where she's witnessing his murder by who else? King. So King abducts her and takes her back to his place and decides that they are going to get married because he doesn't trust that she will keep quiet. So that is the only way for her to live, and he also threatens her family, so she agrees. That is what I meant with forceful. So after a while, I think Savannah is developing Stockholm syndrome. Fight me with this because that is my opinion, but they start to develop feelings with each other and really obsess one another, and then we have another spicy romance, which I absolutely loved. If you forget the first half of the book, the later half is really, really good. Next, we have the third book in the Alliance series, Dome, by SJK, which I gave 4.75 out of 5 stars. This, I think, is my favorite book in the series. I fell in love with this book in the first 2 pages. I mean, I loved Dom and Val's romance. They are perfect for each other, and we see them actually not get. First, we see them have the sweetest romance and everything, but then we find out that Dom was actually using Val to get into the alliance, which actually really breaks Val because she never had anyone actually love her for who she was, and the people always used her and treated her like crap, and then Dom goes and does this, and that actually really breaks her, and it takes a while for him to gain back her trust and everything, but after that they have the most cute relationship because they are adorable, and I just love that. This book was so spicy and so incredible, amazing, and I just loved it so much. I have a novella, and that is No Place to Hide by Harper Ashley, and I gave it 4 stars. And we have Jackson who works at the carnival, and then we have Blair that went there, and basically her ex-boyfriend was really rough with her, and Jackson saves her, and they had this little moment between them where they are like crazy attracted to one another, but then she stays back after closing, and they spend this super hot night together doing all sorts of things. But then come morning, Jackson wants more, and basically that's the novella. We see them do a lot of kinky, spicy stuff to each other for the whole night, and then we see them start developing feelings and everything, and basically that's it. It's a really cool, fun, spicy novella just for Halloween time, and I really did enjoy it. Next, we have Unchained, which is book number 3 in the Dark Desire series by Chell Rosewell, which I gave 4 stars. If you keep seeing me looking over there, it's because I have my laptop here, so it's easier to look at my notes. So I think this one is a little bit shorter, like 300 pages or so, and it is a dark romance, so you don't have to read the previous book to read this one. Same thing I did. I wasn't really interested in other books, but I really was interested in this one. So we have Jade and Hunter. Jade has been sold by her family to this super evil man to be his sex slave, basically, and then he sold her to another man who is keeping her captive and basically repeatedly raping her and everything. And definitely check out the trigger warnings for this book. There are a lot, but yeah, Jade and Hunter used to be together when they were 18. They were super in love. They wanted to run away together and be together forever. But then something happened, and then they broke up. They broke up really, really bad, and then both left heartbroken. But then Hunter is in the job of hunting people who do sex slavery and everything. So that leads him to the guy that holding Jade. And as soon as Hunter sees it, he was like, "What the hell happened to her all these years? I can't believe this is her. What happened to my girl and everything?" and he takes her under his wing to help her heal and everything, but at the same time doesn't want her to leave him because he really still loves her and everything. But there is this hate between them because she broke his heart and everything. So we see that unravel. The only thing I kind of didn't enjoy in watching is how her healing progress was kind of glossed over, because the healing part of this kind of book are one of my favorites. Like with Haunted Adeline, we had like most of the book to see Adeline's healing. Then we had another book, I can't remember which took like 200 pages for the healing part to do, and this one was barely mentioned, so that is why I gave it 4 stars. But I really did enjoy the romance between them, and I highly recommend it. Next, I reread Stalking Jack the Ripper, book 1 by the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Kevin Scalco, and I gave it again 5 out of 5 stars. As you may have seen from my September TBR, I will put the video up here. I had decided to start my reread of Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and so far I have read only book 1, just because I'm just not really in this mood lately. All I want to do is read dark romance, small town romance. I have no idea why, but yeah. As soon as I started this book, I immediately finished it. Like, it didn't take me that long. And every time I read it, I forget who the killer is, and then I am heartbroken all over again. And it just breaks me so much. And this book, the only thing that kind of annoys me is because Audrey Rose really suspects Thomas at some point. But, and to say the truth, I did suspect them a bit at the beginning when I was reading it for the first time. But now that I know the romance and everything that happens afterwards, it just makes me a little bit annoyed. And I didn't remember so many details about her father and everything. And I was just so happy to be back in this world and see the beginning of the romance and everything, that they made me so happy. And it just helped me sort of recharge, if that makes sense. And it was just the best. I can't wait to reread Hunting Prince Dracula, which is my favorite in the series, and I am just so excited. Now, the final book that I've read in September was another all-time favorite of mine, and that is Eternally Down, which is book number 1 in the Sherlock Cove Dimensions by January Rain, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. So, this is a TikTok recommendation for me, but I just loved it. It doesn't have the best writing, but I actually adore the story and the romance and everything. So we have Alexander, and he's a vampire. So he's lived in 1900s or something, and there is a war with werewolves. His family is getting slaughtered, his cabin is getting slaughtered, and his brother are beaten by werewolves. So that means that they will go into a coma until the beloved, basically their soulmate, finds them and gives them her blood to awaken, basically. So they go into the coffins and fall into a coma. So I think close to 200 years later, there is this girl that moves into this mansion after so much saving money and everything. And that is when Alexander soul awakens and he's a sort of ghost. So he and this girl are really drawn to one another and become close and everything. But Alexander doesn't remember what happened to him, so he thinks he's dead and a ghost. But after a while, this girl starts having these dreams, and they're actually his memories, if that makes sense. So she finally understands what needs to be done, so she goes, wakes him up, and it's amazing. I loved a possessive vampire relationship, and I love watching them be like soulmates and everything. Also, absolutely loved how the mating between them was done and everything. The story was incredible, and I felt like this series was gonna continue with them do like a war of witches and vampires and everything versus the evil warlock, but that didn't happen. It ended with one book, and then the next one, I think it's that idiot warlock, the evil warlock that fought in book 1. I think he's gonna get his book in the second book he's gonna get his love story, and I have no desire to read that because I bloody hate him, but I have no idea what I'm gonna do. But this one I have read so many times. I absolutely loved it. The romance was just incredible, and it totally reminded me of Secret Circle, the CW series, and Vampire Diaries, if that makes sense. But yeah, I love those emotions. So that's it for my video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and stick around. Please check out my Instagram. I have my full feed right now, and I'm really enjoying that. I also really appreciate if you could use my code on Cypher if you want to buy any manga with a really cheap price and shipping, especially for international readers, because it is a very convenient site. So I will put a link down below, and I will see you soon for my next video. Bye!